Chaos surrounds us, constant notifications, unpredictable news, and the endless demands of daily life. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, as if the world is spinning out of control. But 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." His words cut through the noise of our modern world, offering a timeless reminder. Chaos doesn't have to dictate how we feel or act. Stoicism, a philosophy rooted in clarity and resilience, provides practical tools to stay calm even when everything around us feels turbulent. Today, we'll explore how principles like cognitive detachment, cultivating presence, and building inner resilience can help you navigate life's storms with a steady mind. This isn't just about enduring chaos, it's about thriving in it. So, let's dive in and discover how Stoic wisdom can transform the way you face uncertainty and stress every day. Chaos from a Stoic perspective isn't about the external world, it's about our relationship to it. The Stoics believe that events themselves are indifferent, they're neither good nor bad. What truly matters is how we perceive and respond to them. Think of it like this: a rainy day isn't inherently bad, it's neutral. But if we're stuck in a traffic jam while it's pouring, we might label it as a disaster. That's where our judgments come into play. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This idea shifts the focus from trying to control the uncontrollable, like the weather or other people's actions, to mastering our own thoughts and reactions. For instance, imagine you're in a crowded airport and your flight gets cancelled. The chaos of the situation doesn't have to dictate your emotions. Instead of spiraling into frustration, ask yourself, what can I control here? Maybe it's rebooking your flight, finding a quiet corner to regroup, or simply accepting the situation with a calm mind. The choice is yours. How would you typically handle a moment like that? Recognizing this power over your perceptions is the first step to staying calm in the midst of chaos. Chaos's inevitable events will unfold in ways we can't predict or control. But here's the Stoic secret: chaos only becomes overwhelming when we confuse what's within our power and what isn't. This is the heart of the dichotomy of control, a principle that divides the world into two categories: things we can influence and things we can't. As Seneca wisely said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. In other words, much of our stress comes from trying to control what's beyond our reach. Take workplace stress, for example. You can't control a demanding boss, a tight deadline, or a malfunctioning printer, but you can control how you respond. Maybe it's prioritizing your tasks, taking short breaks to reset, or reframing the situation as a challenge rather than a threat. The key is to focus your energy on what's within your power and let go of the rest. Think about your own life for a moment. Where are you spending energy trying to control the uncontrollable? Is it in relationships, finances, or even the opinions of others? Recognizing this distinction is the first step toward reclaiming your calm. By embracing the dichotomy of control, you're not ignoring the chaos around you. You're choosing to meet it with clarity and focus. Have you ever found yourself caught in a whirlwind of emotions because of something outside your control? Maybe it was a harsh comment from a colleague or a sudden change in plans that threw your entire day off track. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." This is the essence of cognitive detachment, the ability to observe events without letting them dictate your emotional state. It's not about becoming indifferent or cold. It's about creating a mental space where you can respond rather than react. So how do you put this into practice? Start with something simple: the pause. Before you react to a stressful situation, take a deep breath, count to 3. This small act gives you a moment to step back and ask yourself, is this worth my emotional energy? Over time, this practice builds a habit of responding with calm rather than chaos. Another approach is to reframe the situation. Instead of seeing a traffic jam as a disaster, view it as an opportunity, maybe to listen to a podcast, reflect on your day, or simply enjoy a moment of stillness. The goal is to shift your perspective so external events lose their power to disrupt your peace. Think about your own life. Where could you apply this practice of detachment? What situations tend to trigger your emotions, and how might a pause or a reframe change your experience? By mastering cognitive detachment, you're not ignoring life's challenges, you're choosing to face them with a clear and steady mind. Imagine you're walking through ancient Athens and you come across Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, sitting quietly by the marketplace. Instead of fretting about the political turmoil or economic uncertainty of his time, he's fully absorbed in the moment, observing the rhythm of daily life around him. This is Stoicism in action, a deliberate choice to focus on the present rather than being consumed by the past or future. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it this way: we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. And much of that response begins with grounding ourselves in the here and now. In our modern world, this principle is just as vital. Think about a typical day. Deadlines, notifications, and responsibilities can pull us in a dozen directions at once. But what if, instead of worrying about tomorrow's presentation or replaying yesterday's mistakes, you pause to focus on the task at hand? Maybe it's savoring your morning coffee, listening intently during a conversation, or even just noticing your breath. These small acts of presence can act as anchors, pulling you back to the present moment and reducing the weight of anxiety. So here's a question to reflect on. How often do you find yourself caught in the past or future, rather than fully experiencing the present? By practicing presence, you're not ignoring life's challenges. You're meeting them with a mind that's steady, focused, and free from unnecessary distractions. Life doesn't come with a guarantee of smooth sailing. Hardship is inevitable. The Stoics understood this deeply, and instead of fearing adversity, they saw it as a teacher. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This perspective flips the script on suffering, transforming it from something to avoid into a tool for growth. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Instead of seeing each failure as a setback, he viewed them as steps toward success. "I have not failed," he said. "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's resilience in action, a mindset that embraces challenges as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. So, how can you apply this Stoic wisdom to your own life? Start by reframing your difficulties. Next time you face a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Whether it's a missed opportunity, a personal loss, or a professional hurdle, every challenge carries a lesson if you're willing to look for it. This shift in perspective doesn't make the struggle disappear, but it does give you the power to navigate it with purpose and resilience. Think about your recent challenges. How might you view them differently if you saw them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks? By embracing adversity as an opportunity, you're not just enduring life's storms, you're building the strength to thrive in them. At the heart of Stoicism lie four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These aren't just abstract ideals, they're practical tools for navigating life's chaos with integrity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be one." This call to action reminds us that virtues aren't meant to be admired from a distance, they're meant to be lived. Take wisdom, for example. In chaotic moments, it's the ability to see clearly, to separate what's essential from what's trivial. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it, standing firm when everything around you feels unstable. Justice calls us to treat others with fairness and compassion, even when it's inconvenient. And temperance teaches us to find balance, to avoid excess in both our reactions and our desires. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison only to emerge with a commitment to forgiveness and reconciliation. In the face of unimaginable chaos, he demonstrated all four virtues: wisdom in his vision, courage in his resilience, justice in his leadership, and temperance in his restraint. His example shows us that even in the darkest times, virtue can light the way. So, here's a question to reflect on. How can you embody these virtues in your own life? Whether it's choosing patience in a moment of frustration, standing up for what's right, or simply pausing to think before you act, each small step brings you closer to living virtuously. In chaos, virtue isn't just a shield, it's a compass guiding us toward a life of meaning and purpose. In the midst of chaos, it's easy to focus on what's going wrong, what's missing, what's broken, what's out of our control. But what about what's going right? What about the things we often take for granted, like a warm meal, a kind word, or even the simple ability to take a deep breath? Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This is the essence of Stoic gratitude, not just recognizing the good in our lives, but actively appreciating it, even when chaos threatens to overshadow it. One practical way to cultivate this mindset is through journaling. Each day, take a moment to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand. Maybe it's the sunlight streaming through your window, a conversation that made you smile, or even the fact that you made it through a tough day. Over time, this practice shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant, helping you maintain perspective even in difficult times. It's not about ignoring challenges, it's about balancing them with gratitude. So here's a challenge for you. Right now, pause and think of one thing you're grateful for, no matter how small. How does it change your perspective, even for a moment? By practicing gratitude, you're not denying the chaos, you're choosing to see the light that still shines within it. Life is fleeting, a truth that can feel unsettling, yet also profoundly liberating. The Stoics embraced the concept of impermanence, understanding that everything, from our possessions to our emotions, is temporary. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this when he wrote, "Everything is ephemeral, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In other words, nothing lasts forever, and that includes the challenges we face today. When we accept this truth, it shifts our perspective on what's truly important. Imagine you're standing on a beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. Each wave rises, peaks, and then dissolves back into the ocean, just like our problems and triumphs. This metaphor reminds us that even the most overwhelming moments are temporary. So, how can this idea help us in practical terms? Next time you're feeling anxious about a situation, ask yourself, will this matter in a year, in 5 years? Often the answer is no. This isn't about dismissing your feelings, but about recognizing their transient nature. By accepting impermanence, you're not erasing problems. You're choosing to face them with a sense of calm and perspective. Take a moment to reflect. How do you usually react to change? Do you resist it, or do you find ways to adapt? Embracing the temporary nature of life can help you move through it with greater ease and less fear, allowing you to focus on what truly matters in the here and now. Why is it that 2 people can experience the same event and have completely different reactions? One might see a traffic jam as a frustrating delay, while another views it as an opportunity to listen to an audiobook or reflect on their day. The difference lies in perspective, the lens through which we interpret the world around us. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." This simple yet profound truth highlights the power of our minds to shape our experience of chaos. Consider the story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In the unimaginable suffering of a concentration camp, he found a way to reframe his reality by focusing on his inner freedom, the ability to choose his attitude even in the face of horror. This shift in perspective gave him a sense of purpose that sustained him through the darkest of times. While most of us won't face challenges of that magnitude, we can still apply this principle to our own lives. Think about a current challenge you're facing. How might you reframe it? Could it be a chance to learn, grow, or practice patience? By changing the way we see a situation, we change the way we feel about it. Perspective isn't just a tool, it's a superpower, one that allows us to transform chaos into clarity and adversity into opportunity. What's one situation in your life where a shift in perspective could make all the difference? Modern life is a whirlwind of distractions, endless notifications, cluttered spaces, and commitments that stretch us thin. It's no wonder we often feel overwhelmed. But what if the key to calmness lies in simplifying? Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This isn't just about material things, it's about stripping away the excess to focus on what truly matters. Start by decluttering not just your physical space, but your mental and emotional landscape as well. Take a look around your home. Are there items you no longer need or use? Clearing them out can create a sense of order and calm. Next, consider your schedule. Are there activities or commitments that drain your energy rather than enrich it? Learning to say no can free up time for what's truly important. Finally, simplify your digital life. Unsubscribe from unnecessary emails, limit screen time, and create boundaries with technology. These small changes can have a profound impact on your sense of peace. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one area of your life that feels overly complicated? Could simplifying it bring you more clarity and focus? By focusing on the essentials, you're not just reducing chaos, you're creating space for what truly matters. Long before meditation became a modern wellness trend, the Stoics were practicing their own form of inner reflection to cultivate calm and clarity. Stoic meditation isn't about emptying the mind or achieving a blissful state. It's about observing your thoughts, examining your judgments, and aligning your actions with virtue. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal journal Meditations, wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that peace isn't found in external circumstances but within ourselves. So how can you start practicing Stoic meditation? Here's a simple exercise. Each evening, take 5 minutes to sit quietly and review your day. Ask yourself, where did I act with virtue? Where could I have done better? What can I learn from today? This practice, known as the evening reflection, helps you process experiences, gain insights, and prepare for the day ahead. The key is consistency. Just a few minutes each day can build a habit of self-awareness and inner peace. If you're new to meditation, don't worry about doing it perfectly. The goal isn't to eliminate all thoughts, but to observe them without judgment. Over time, this practice helps you become more present, grounded, and resilient in the face of chaos. Why not give it a try tonight? What might you discover about yourself in those moments of quiet reflection? Clutching tightly to outcomes is one of the quickest ways to invite stress into our lives. We plan, we hope, we worry, often without realizing that much of what happens is beyond our control. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, offered a remedy to this anxiety when he said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This simple yet profound advice invites us to focus on our efforts rather than fixating on the results. Think of a gardener who plants seeds with care, waters them diligently, and tends to the soil. but ultimately has no control over the weather or the growth of the plants. The gardener's peace comes from knowing they've done their part regardless of the outcome. This is the essence of the Stoic art of letting go, not as a form of resignation, but as a way to free ourselves from the weight of unmet expectations. Take the story of an athlete who trained tirelessly for a competition, only to fall short of winning. Instead of dwelling on the loss, they chose to focus on the lessons learned and the joy of the journey. How much lighter might we feel if we approached our own goals with that same mindset? Reflect for a moment. What are you holding onto too tightly? Is it a specific outcome, a relationship, or even a version of yourself you feel you must live up to? By practicing the art of letting go, you're not giving up. You're making room for peace, resilience, and the unexpected gifts life might bring. Have you ever noticed how easily our emotions can take the wheel, steering us into reactions we later regret? Anger, frustration, or anxiety can feel overwhelming, especially in chaotic moments. But the Stoics believed that mastering our emotions isn't about suppressing them. It's about understanding and channeling them with intention. Seneca put it perfectly: the greatest remedy for anger is delay. In other words, when we pause before reacting, we create space for clarity and calm to emerge. Emotional equanimity, the Stoic goal of maintaining balance, isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about not letting emotions control us. So, how can we cultivate this balance? One simple yet powerful technique is deep breathing. When emotions run high, take a moment to inhale deeply, hold for a few seconds, and exhale slowly. This practice not only calms your body, but also gives your mind a moment to reset. Another approach is to visualize yourself as an observer, stepping back to watch your emotions without judgment. Ask yourself, is this reaction serving me, or is it clouding my judgment? Over time, these small practices can help you respond to life's ups and downs with steadiness and poise. Why not try this the next time you feel overwhelmed? A single breath can be the first step toward emotional mastery, transforming chaos into calm. Imagine for a moment that the worst-case scenario actually happens. What would you do? How would you respond? This isn't about dwelling on fear or pessimism. It's about preparing for life's uncertainties with clarity and resilience. The Stoics called this practice Premeditatio Malorum, or negative visualization. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, captured its essence when he said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about those things." By imagining potential challenges ahead of time, we strip them of their power to surprise or overwhelm us. Here's how you can practice this exercise. Take a few minutes to sit quietly and think about a situation you're worried about. Visualize it in detail. What would it look like, feel like, and sound like? Now, ask yourself, how would I handle this? What resources or strengths do I have to face it? This simple act of mental rehearsal helps you prepare emotionally and practically, turning fear into readiness. For example, if you're anxious about a job interview, visualize the toughest questions being asked and then picture yourself answering them confidently. The goal isn't to create anxiety, but to reduce it by showing yourself that you can handle even the most challenging scenarios. How might this practice change the way you approach uncertainty in your own life? By practicing negative visualization, you're not inviting chaos, you're building the mental resilience to meet it head-on. In today's fast-paced world, we're conditioned to expect instant results, whether it's a response to a text, a delivery arriving the same day, or a problem being solved with the click of a button. But life doesn't always work that way. Chaos, delays, and setbacks are inevitable, and that's where patience becomes not just a virtue but a necessity. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks." In other words, patience isn't passive, it's an active choice to endure and persist, even when the world feels like it's moving too slowly or not moving at all. Take the example of Malala Yousafzai, who, despite facing immense adversity, remained steadfast in her fight for girls' education. Her patience and resilience in the face of immense challenges not only transformed her life but also inspired millions around the world. So, how can we cultivate patience in our own lives? Start by reframing delays as opportunities, time to reflect, prepare, or even rest. When you're stuck in traffic, view it as a chance to listen to a podcast or enjoy a moment of stillness. When a project at work hits a snag, use the extra time to refine your approach. Patience isn't about waiting idly, it's about using the time you're given to grow, adapt, and prepare for what's next. Think about your own life. Where could a little more patience make a difference? By embracing this Stoic virtue, you're not just enduring chaos, you're mastering it one moment at a time. How often do we speak without thinking, letting unnecessary words add fuel to an already chaotic situation? The Stoics understood the profound power of silence, not as a passive retreat, but as an intentional choice to preserve peace and clarity. Seneca, one of Stoicism's great thinkers, put it this way: the first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. Silence, in this sense, isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about refusing to engage in it. Imagine a heated argument where emotions are running high. Instead of responding with a sharp retort, what if you paused, took a breath, and chose silence? That moment of restraint can prevent misunderstandings, de-escalate tension, and allow space for cooler heads to prevail. Silence can also be a tool for self-reflection. In a world filled with noise, social media chatter, constant notifications, and endless opinions, taking time to step back and listen to your own thoughts can be transformative. It's in these quiet moments that we often find the clarity we've been searching for. So, here's a question to consider. When was the last time you chose silence over speech? Was it during a disagreement, a moment of frustration, or simply to gather your thoughts? Silence isn't weakness, it's strength, a deliberate act of control in the midst of chaos. Where in your life might a little more silence bring you peace? Life doesn't come with a guarantee of smooth sailing. Hardship is inevitable. The Stoics understood this deeply, and instead of fearing adversity, they saw it as a teacher. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This perspective flips the script on suffering, transforming it from something to avoid into a tool for growth. Consider the story of Malala Yousafzai, who, after surviving an attack for advocating girls' education, didn't retreat in fear. Instead, she used her experience to fuel a global movement, becoming a symbol of resilience and courage. Her journey shows us that even the darkest moments can become catalysts for profound transformation. So, how can you apply this Stoic wisdom to your own life? Start by reframing your difficulties. Next time you face a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Whether it's a missed opportunity, a personal loss, or a professional hurdle, every challenge carries a lesson if you're willing to look for it. This shift in perspective doesn't make the struggle disappear, but it does give you the power to navigate it with purpose and resilience. Think about your recent challenges. How might you view them differently if you saw them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks? By embracing adversity as an opportunity, you're not just enduring life's storms, you're building the strength to thrive in them. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to stay calm even in the most chaotic situations, while others feel completely overwhelmed? The answer often lies in self-discipline, the ability to control your impulses, stay focused, and act with intention. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound insight reminds us that self-discipline isn't just about sticking to a routine or resisting temptations. It's about mastering your inner world so that external chaos doesn't dictate your peace. But how do we build this kind of discipline in our own lives? Start small. Set a goal that's achievable, like waking up 15 minutes earlier to meditate or journal. These small wins build momentum and confidence, making it easier to tackle bigger challenges over time. Another practical step is to create a daily routine that prioritizes what truly matters. For example, instead of scrolling through social media first thing in the morning, use that time to read a few pages of a book or plan your day. These habits may seem minor, but over time, they compound into a life of greater focus and calm. So here's a challenge for you. What's one disciplined practice you can commit to starting today? Whether it's tidying your workspace, limiting screen time, or simply taking a moment to pause before reacting, each small step brings you closer to mastering your mind amidst the chaos. Chaos has a way of making us feel isolated, as if we're facing the storm alone. But the Stoics remind us that we're never truly alone. Our connections to others are a source of strength and stability. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Friendship always benefits, love sometimes injures." His words highlight the profound value of meaningful relationships in navigating life's challenges. Friendship, from a Stoic perspective, isn't just about companionship, it's about mutual support, shared wisdom, and the courage to face adversity together. Take the example of a small community that came together during a natural disaster. Neighbors who barely knew each other before worked side by side, sharing resources, offering comfort, and rebuilding homes. This kind of solidarity doesn't just help people survive, it helps them thrive. So, how can we strengthen our own social connections in the midst of chaos? Start by reaching out, whether it's a simple message to check in on a friend or joining a group that aligns with your interests. Even small acts of kindness can deepen bonds and create a sense of belonging. Reflect for a moment. Who in your life brings you comfort or perspective during tough times? How might you nurture those relationships further? By staying grounded in community, you're not just weathering the storm, you're building a network of resilience that can carry you through any challenge. Let's take a step back to ancient Rome, where Marcus Aurelius, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, spent his evenings reflecting on his day and recording his thoughts. His personal writings, later compiled into meditations, weren't meant for publication. They were his way of processing the chaos of ruling an empire. This practice of journaling wasn't unique to Aurelius. It was a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, a tool for cultivating clarity and self-awareness. Aurelius himself wrote, "You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action, and be satisfied if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." No one can prevent that. Journaling, in this sense, becomes a way to assemble your life piece by piece through reflection and intention. So, how can you start? Here's a simple prompt to try tonight. What went well today? What could I have done better? What am I grateful for? These 3 questions encourage you to focus on the positive, learn from challenges, and cultivate gratitude, all in just a few minutes. The beauty of journaling is its flexibility. It doesn't require fancy tools or hours of time. All you need is a notebook and a willingness to look inward. By making this a daily habit, you're not just recording events. You're creating a space to process emotions, gain perspective, and navigate chaos with greater clarity. Why not give it a try tonight? You might be surprised at what you discover when you take the time to reflect. Many of us fear being alone, uncomfortable with silence. We fill our days with noise, distractions, and endless busyness. But what if solitude isn't something to avoid, but a source of profound strength? Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Learn to be alone, and you will discover the company of yourself." This isn't about isolation or loneliness. It's about using time alone to connect with your thoughts, reflect on your values, and recharge your spirit. Take the example of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor who often retreated into solitude to focus on his ideas. It was during these quiet moments that he conceived some of his most groundbreaking inventions, proving that solitude can be a fertile ground for creativity and clarity. So, how can you embrace this practice in your own life? Start small. Set aside just 10 minutes a day to sit quietly, away from screens and distractions. Use this time to reflect, journal, or simply breathe. You might be surprised at how quickly your mind begins to settle, offering insights and calm that you didn't realize were there. Consider this: when was the last time you truly spent time with yourself without the noise of the world intruding? By carving out moments of solitude, you're not escaping life. You're creating space to understand it more deeply and to find peace within yourself. Have you ever made a decision in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? Impulsive reactions are often our default mode in chaos, but the Stoics offer a better way. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, once said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable, and when it exercises its power, it is impossible to disturb." This isn't just a lofty ideal. It's a practical reminder that thoughtful decision-making begins with slowing down and taking control of our thoughts. So, how can we put this into practice? First, recognize the trigger. When you feel tension rising, pause and ask yourself, what's driving this reaction? Is it fear, frustration, or something else? This simple act of awareness creates space for clarity. Next, consider the long-term consequences. Will this decision serve you tomorrow, next week, or next year? Finally, align your choice with your values. Ask, does this reflect the person I want to be? By taking these steps, you're not just reacting to chaos, you're rising above it, making decisions that are grounded and intentional. Think about a recent situation where you acted impulsively. How might it have turned out differently if you'd taken a moment to pause and reflect? The art of mindful decision-making isn't about perfection, it's about progress, one thoughtful choice at a time. Chaos has a way of dividing us, pulling focus toward our own struggles and away from the needs of others. Yet, Stoicism teaches us that even in the midst of turmoil, compassion is not just a virtue but a source of strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." This simple yet profound metaphor reminds us that true resilience isn't about isolating ourselves. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and extending empathy to those around us. Think of Fred Rogers, the beloved host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. During moments of societal upheaval, whether it was the assassination of a national leader or the aftermath of 9/11, he consistently turned to children and families with a message of kindness and understanding. His calm, compassionate presence became a beacon of hope in times of uncertainty. So, how can we practice compassion in our own lives, especially when we're feeling the weight of chaos ourselves? Start small. It might be as simple as listening without judgment when someone shares their struggles, or offering a kind word to a stranger who seems overwhelmed. These acts of empathy not only uplift others but also remind us of our shared humanity, grounding us in a sense of purpose and connection. Consider this: when was the last time you extended compassion, even in a small way? By choosing to act with kindness, even when it's hard, you're not just easing someone else's burden, you're cultivating a deeper sense of peace within yourself. A fear has a way of freezing us in place, whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. It's one of the most paralyzing emotions we face, yet the Stoics saw it as an invitation, an opportunity to grow stronger and more resilient. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that fear itself isn't the problem. It's how we respond to it that shapes our experience. So, how can we begin to confront fear in a way that aligns with Stoic principles? Start by identifying what's truly within your control. You can't control the outcome of a job interview or the opinions of others, but you can control your preparation, your mindset, and your effort. Focusing on these things shifts your energy from worrying about the unknown to taking purposeful action. Another practical step is to visualize the worst-case scenario. Ask yourself, if this fear came true, how would I handle it? Often, you'll find that even the worst outcome is manageable, and that realization can take away some of fear's power. Here's a question to reflect on. What's one fear that's been holding you back? How might you approach it differently by focusing on what's within your control? By facing fear with clarity and intention, you're not just overcoming it, you're transforming it into a source of strength and growth. Ever tried to stick to a routine only to have life throw a curveball that derails everything? It's frustrating, isn't it? But here's the thing. Routines aren't just about productivity. They're about creating a sense of stability when everything else feels uncertain. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Discipline is the greatest of liberties." What he meant is that by imposing structure on our days, we free ourselves from the chaos of unpredictability. Think of a routine as an anchor. It doesn't prevent the storm, but it keeps you steady while the waves crash around you. So, how can you build a routine that works for you? Start small. Maybe it's setting aside 10 minutes each morning to plan your day, or ending each evening with a few moments of reflection. These simple practices don't require hours of effort, but they create a rhythm that can ground you in the midst of turmoil. Here's a challenge. Choose one new habit to commit to this week, whether it's a daily walk, a mindfulness exercise, or even just a consistent bedtime. By taking this step, you're not just adding structure to your day, you're building resilience one small act at a time. Ego has a way of amplifying chaos, turning challenges into personal battles and conflicts into clashes of pride. When life gets tough, it's easy to let frustration or defensiveness take over, but humility offers a different path, a way to navigate adversity with grace and openness. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You will never be remarkable if you're not willing to be humble." This isn't about diminishing your worth, it's about recognizing that you're part of something larger, and that every challenge is an opportunity to learn rather than an attack on your identity. Take the example of Nelson Mandela, who, after spending 27 years in prison, emerged not with bitterness or a desire for revenge, but with a profound humility that allowed him to lead South Africa toward reconciliation. His ability to set aside his ego for the greater good transformed a nation and inspired the world. So, how can we practice humility in our own lives, especially when chaos strikes? Start by really listening to others' perspectives, even when they differ from your own. Approach mistakes not as failures but as lessons, and be willing to admit when you're wrong. These small acts of humility can diffuse tension, foster understanding, and help you move through adversity with greater ease. Take a moment to reflect, where in your life could a little more humility make a difference? By embracing this practice, you're not just surviving chaos, you're rising above it with grace and resilience. Life has a way of presenting us with situations we can't change, lost opportunities, unexpected setbacks, or even the actions of other people. It's natural to resist these realities, to fight against them in the hopes of bending them to our will. But the Stoics remind us that this struggle often causes more pain than the situation itself. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it plainly: happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Acceptance, in this sense, isn't about giving up, it's about recognizing what's beyond your control and redirecting your energy toward what you can influence. Take the story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor who faced unimaginable suffering during World War II. Instead of resisting his circumstances, he chose to accept them, not as a form of defeat, but as a way to focus on the one thing he could control, his attitude. This shift allowed him to find meaning even in the darkest of times, a lesson he later shared with the world through his book Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl's story shows us that acceptance isn't passive, it's a powerful choice that can lead to profound peace. So here's a question to consider. What is one situation in your life that you've been resisting? What might it feel like to accept it, not as a surrender, but as a step toward clarity and strength? By practicing the Stoic way of acceptance, you're not just enduring life's challenges, you're transforming them into opportunities for growth and resilience. As we've explored today, Stoicism offers a timeless toolkit for staying calm in the midst of chaos. We've learned to focus on what's within our control through the dichotomy of control, to detach from overwhelming emotions with cognitive detachment, and to cultivate resilience by embracing adversity as a teacher. These principles aren't just philosophical musings, they're practical strategies for navigating the unpredictability of life with clarity and strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, summed it up perfectly when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This powerful reminder invites us to see challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities for growth. As you move forward, take a moment to reflect which of these Stoic principles resonates most with you. How might you apply them to your own life, whether it's in moments of stress, uncertainty, or conflict? The beauty of Stoicism lies in its simplicity and universality. It's a philosophy that's as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living with purpose and calm. And share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you stay grounded in chaos? Let's continue this conversation and support each other on the journey to a more resilient and peaceful life.